where you have been under pressure? Maybe, maybe you have been in a situation where you have been in a leadership role and you've had someone yell at you, curse at you, do something very aggressive towards you as a leader, and you perhaps just got a bit caught off guard. And you wasn't really sure how to manage your emotions in this very high pressured, high stakes situation. Now, I want to share with you that this is by far one of the skills that you will have to learn how to master. And in this video, I'm going to share with you strategies that I have personally experienced over the past 20 years in senior executive roles that will help you to be able to start managing your emotions under pressure. Now, this video is a more advanced type video because if you're dealing with these type of high pressure situations specifically where someone's yelling at you, cursing at you, this is not for your average leader. Your average leader will likely not make it in this situation. But if you're subscribed to my channel or watching my content, this is something that you'll be able to navigate very easily. This channel specifically focuses on advanced communication skills and strategies. I am here to support you and help you be able to communicate more confidently and concisely when you are in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. So, if you are a woman in leadership, I provide executive coaching and consultation services to you. You're welcome to reach out to me at exciteexcellence.org for an executive strategy session so we can come up with a plan for you. If you are a man in leadership, or you may be someone that is a leader or thinking about being a leader, I guarantee you that you will learn some very, very priceless insights on this channel. There's no other channels like this on YouTube. Now, let's talk about specifically when you're under pressure in those emotions. How many of you, excuse me, have ever been under pressure and felt like your emotions were getting the best of you? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you ever had that happen. Let me tell you some of the common emotions that happen when you are under pressure. When you are initially first, I would say, exposed to or hit potentially with high pressure, high stakes situations. One of the very first situations that actually tends to happen is that we tend to freeze. Literally, we tend to freeze and think, what exactly am I going to say? How am I going to say it? I'm not quite sure. We're going to go into that in just a moment. I want to say hello, welcome, welcome to those of you watching the live video today. If you've ever been in a situation where you wanted to learn how to manage your emotions under pressure as leader, this is the only channel on YouTube that is going to show you this in a live setting. We're going to talk about it today. All right, I want to say hello to Anise. I want to say Anise told Valiz. I hope I am saying that correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. Let me know where you all are joining from in the big, beautiful world today. And let me know if you have ever struggled with managing your emotions under pressure. We're talking about that today. Share with me a situation, a scenario that you have been through where you felt like your emotions got the best of you when you were under pressure. Put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. I will give you a strategy to help you overcome that. As I mentioned, for those of you just joined, welcome, welcome. Let me know where you're joining from. What happens normally when you are caught off guard, for those of you just joined, when you're placed in that very under pressure, high stakes situation where you're stressed out, one of the first reactions that initially happens is the freeze. You're like, oh my gosh. In your mind, you're thinking, what is going on here? I'm trying to process it. That's the reason why a lot of people tend to freeze when they are under pressure because it's almost as if your mind is getting too much information all at once. And your first default mechanism in your mind is to say, oh, nope, that's too much. Turn it off. And that's why a lot of times people freeze. This is the reason why when you are in a leadership role, whether you are a woman in leadership or a man in leadership, how you respond to those high pressure situations, it truly, truly, truly does matter. And if you are that person that freezes when you speak and you don't know what to say in a normal conversation or even especially under pressure, you should absolutely reach out to me for an executive strategy session at exciteexcellence.org because we need to help you be able to not do that. But that's the very first common reaction that happens is that people tend to just freeze. They don't know what to say, they don't know how to say it. Their mind has gotten too much information where it just turns off and it says, no, oh, I don't know. It's too much information for me to process. Has it ever happened to you before? It's happened to me before. Let me know if it ever has. The next response that people tend to experience, and I want you all to let me know, what have you experienced when you have been under pressure, when maybe someone is being aggressive towards you, maybe they're cursing at you, or they're just raising their voice. What are some things that you all have dealt with before? Let me know. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Let me see who's here. Robert, welcome back, friend. Robert says, "Hi, Robert here. Hello, good to see you, Robert. It's been a while. I've been out this week, but I am so glad to be back with you all. But good to see you, Robert. Hope you're doing well today." Now, we talked about the initial reaction is the caught off guard. Your mind will freeze and it will turn off. One of the next reactions that tends to happen when people are in those very high pressure situations, in addition to their mind just going blank, is that their heart will start to race a little bit. Now, even though I am a doctor, I'm not providing you with medical advice, but I'm telling you, even those of us who have been trained and who have dealt with people cursing at us, people raising their voice, people being very aggressive, there is still, even though you're trained to manage it and you can manage it, there is still that physiologic response, that fight or flight response that your body says that, okay, okay, we need to get ready. We need to get ready because either we're going to fight or we're going to fly. Are we going to fight or we're going to fly? And even though you may be very calm on the inside, your heart may be racing just a little bit on the inside also. But the person you're communicating with doesn't need to see all of that. And if you are subscribed to my channel or follow my content or work with me as a client, you know you will not have that issue moving forward. But this is something that happens. A lot of times your heart may race a little bit more. Now, the trick to that, and as I mentioned, I'm not giving medical advice, but the trick to it is if your heart, you feel like your heart is racing just a little bit more because someone is stressing you out, try to remain calm. I know that sounds hard, but try to remain calm and keep the conversation calm anyway. Even if you feel that flutter, you're like, it's okay. Keep You may feel it, but you got to keep moving anyways. I've had that happen to me before. I'm very trained on high stakes, high pressure conversations. I can diffuse them relatively quickly if I can. You're going to have situations sometimes where you just have mean people that are just there to just cause trouble. But ultimately, all of us may feel that initial fight or flight response because our mind, no matter how poised and how trained you are, your mind is saying, do I need to stay or do I need to go? Do I need to stay or do I need to go? And that's sometimes you'll notice that your heart rate may just, you may feel like your heart is beating out your chest, and it very well may be, but you still have to be calm and listen. Now I want to know from you, what are some times when you potentially have dealt with a very high stakes, high pressure situation where you felt like maybe you manage your emotions very well under pressure, maybe you did not manage your emotions you maybe you did not manage your emotions well under pressure? Let me know in the comments below. I want to say hello to Annie Z4I3Y. Hello, Annie. How you doing today? So I've shared with you two responses that happen a lot of times when people are in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. It could be a meeting you're having with a group of people. It could be with a board, your business associates, an angry client, an angry patient. It could be anything. Now, how do you manage your emotions under pressure? Well, one of the things that I tell a lot of my clients, and I thank you for the smiley faces, is you have to know your triggers. So, for instance, why is this important? If you know what your triggers are in advance, then you automatically will start developing a template in terms of what specifically you need to say when these triggers happen to you. So you already know your response. I'll give you an example. When someone, this is years ago when I was a W 2, when I had a situation come up, and I can give you the scenario if I have time. I want to make sure I go through everything. But if I'm in a situation where someone is cursing at me, because I've been cursed out so many times, but if someone curses at me, that's not a trigger so much for me. Why? Because I've been cursed at before by patients in the past, mostly by patients, and I don't find it as triggering for me. However, someone else may say, you know what, cursing is a trigger. But for me, cursing is not a word or I would say a statement that triggers me to make that emotional response. It just causes me to say I need to say my template response. So typically the first thing I do is I will tell the person there's no need to raise your voice. There's no need for you to curse. If you feel like you need to do that, we may need to have this conversation at a later date and divert the conversation from there. Now, I will tell you something specifically. This happens to, in general, anybody. If someone is cursing at you, oftentimes if you are a woman in leadership and someone's cursing at you, you have to take that, you have to really pay attention to that, because sometimes there are people out there that may just feel like they just want to curse at you because you're a woman. And I mean, that's a reality. It may happen to men too. Somebody may say, well, you're a man and I'm just going to just go off on you. It can happen. So sometimes you have to be aware of those dynamics. So, as I mentioned, we have our responses. A way to manage this is to know your triggers. It's so important for you to know what is it specifically that is triggering you, that's causing you to feel like you are under pressure and you don't know how to manage your emotions. Another thing I would tell you, in addition to knowing your triggers, is to take some time and start to understand how your body operates. Now, for instance, if someone comes at you and they're yelling at you or frustrated with you, if you know your immediate response when that happens to you is that maybe you freeze, or maybe you start to fidget a little bit, maybe you change gait, maybe you do something weird, or you do something to show you're frustrated, then know that is a trigger for you and start learning how to regulate yourself. I'll give you one personally for me. For me specifically, and I think I'm gonna have to tell you the scenario that happened to me so I can give you some idea. For me specifically, when I'm trying to manage my emotions under pressure, I personally, this is me, if it gets to the point where I feel like I'm being disrespected, I automatically calm myself down, but I start becoming a bit more sarcastic in my responses. And I'll give you an example. I'll share with you a story that happened to me in a few moments. But that's for me. That is my way of managing my emotions under pressure, because for me, if I can communicate to someone and be my authentic self, then I know I'm in control of the conversation. I'm in control of the conversation, not them. If I feel like I can't be my authentic self, then they are in control of the conversation, and I'll change that really quickly. Eye contact is important in these situations. That's a way to manage your emotions, because if you are the person that can sit and have direct eye contact with someone when they're yelling at you or screaming at you or being disrespectful, you are setting yourself to be the person in control. Now, I talk about this a lot on my channel. Therefore, take a few moments, look at any videos that talk about eye contact, and listen out for my cowboy analogy, because that is the key to helping you learn how to master eye contact. And you definitely need it in those situations. Now, you may be thinking, well, how does eye contact manage emotions under pressure? It controls you and it controls the person. As I mentioned many times in my videos, there's three aspects of communication that a lot of people struggle with: eye contact, eye contact, facial expressions, and silence. And eye contact is one of those. If you can stare at someone and maintain eye contact with them, and they are upset and, and being argumentative, it shows that you are in more control than that person is. They may keep going, keep going, keep going, but at some point they're going to realize this person is different, because they are completely directly looking at me and they are not moving or changing their gaze whatsoever. And it almost will help that person to recognize, whoa, this person's different. And they may feel a little bit intimidated. So this is just one of those things that come up when you start to mastering, excuse me, how to communicate in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. I want you to be that person that is in control, that shows immediately, instantly, I have an executive presence and I can handle the situation regardless of what you're doing. Now, let me share with you a specific scenario that happened to me many years ago. And I hope this gives you all some insight in terms of how I manage things. I have a different way of navigating situations. And I'll mention to you at the beginning, I am definitely more of the diffuse conflict kind of person, but I am much more of a realist when I know that there are some people out there that you simply cannot please. How many of you know people out there that you just can't please? I know some people, I'm sure you do too. Put it in the comments below. But let me tell you exactly what happened to me and how I shifted the conversation depending on what happened. I had a situation years ago with a patient. Many of you know that I am a dentist. This patient just wasn't patient. They didn't want to wait. They just didn't want to wait at all. And sometimes for those of us in the medical profession, specifically in dentistry, people forget that we are actually doing procedures on live patients, right? People just forget that for some reason. Thank you for the heart emojis. They think that they come to the dentist office and we're just back there with our, our heads, just chilling, just hanging out. If we're actually in a procedure in somebody's mouth, this person is alive, just so you all know. Most of the time on the medical world, you're going to sleep. In the dental procedure, most of the time you're awake unless you need to be sleeping. Thank you for the heart emojis. But anyways, I want to tell you what happened. So as I mentioned, this patient was my patient. And every time if something happened and they had to wait in the lobby for more than like 15, 20, 30 minutes, they made a scene at the front, they make a scene in the back, and etc. Now, this particular person had made scenes every time they were there coming to the office. Now, they were not getting any procedures done. I don't want to say what they were doing, but they weren't getting procedures done. They were getting, I would say, measurements for something. Anyways, this person, this one time at almost at the final end, there was something that was missing, and we had to let them know about it, but we didn't know it was missing until they got back there. So that was an issue on our part. Anyways, this person, before they even knew all that, they came back and told me personally, I was treating people like explicative with the F word, dogs, not people treating them right because they're waiting. I mean, explicatives just blah, blah, blah at me. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll just finish the procedure with somebody. I am not treating anybody like that. But literally, they said, you were doing F this and F that. And I mean, literally, that's what they said to me. And so for me, especially as a woman in leadership, I have to take I gauge it a little bit differently depending on who I'm speaking with. If it's someone that is genuinely nice, they may just be frustrated. And so one of the things I tell you when you're in those situations, you have to determine the really the most important two most important things. And if you figure this out very early on in a conversation, then it helps you to gauge in terms of how you want to interact with this person, how you want to move this conversation, or completely stop it. Thank you for the heart emojis. Either this person is threatening you or this person is just mad. Those are two simple decisions you have to make. And you can't make those decisions 10 minutes in a conversation, 30 minutes in the conversation. You have to make it now, immediately. You have to immediately be able to say, this person's just frustrated, this person is threatening me. Because your response is going to be totally different. If you found that, now I'll give you an example. If this person was sitting and talking to me, this patient I told you, if they were sitting and talking to me and they were saying F this, F that, and I saw them start to move and like lift themselves up, immediate threat. Immediate threat for me. I would say, no, you have to go or I'm leaving right now. One of the two. Now, if I see this person is just kind of sitting back, talking to me, saying all these explicative words, and I notice that this person specifically is not changing gait where I don't feel like they're trying to come at me or come towards me, then I know that they're probably really frustrated. And therefore I address that in a bit of a different way. Now I still listen. You have to be very, very observant and you have to listen to people when they start acting in a different type of way. Now let me know before I finish the scenario what happened. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever been in a really challenging conversation where people have maybe been really upset with you? Let's talk about it. Let me know in the comments below. What did you do that was successful? What are some things that you wish you would have done differently? I want our community to grow together because managing yourself and your emotions under pressure is a high stakes communication skill that you cannot, I repeat, you cannot afford not to have if you are trying to be in a business, be a leader in an organization, be a public official. This is a non-negotiable one you have to have because people really struggle with it, and I don't want you to struggle with it if you're subscribed to my channel. Let me know in the comments below. Now, as I mentioned, so what happened? I told you my step-by-step process. I watched this patient and I had to determine, am I threatened or is this person just being frustrated? I determined the person was just frustrated. Okay. Now, because somebody's frustrated, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take this nonsense, right? So I'll tell you what I did next. But I want to say hello to Angela DeGraff. Hello, Angela. Angela says, hello, nice woman. Well, hello, Angela. Good to see you. Let me know where you're joining from today. And if you've ever been in a situation where you struggle with managing your emotions under pressure, we're talking about that today. Now, what happened? I said, okay, I determined that this person is just frustrated. They're just frustrated. Okay, they're just frustrated. And so I let them speak, but I did tell them at the very beginning when they started saying F this and F that, I said, well, hold on, hold on, hold on. You do not need to speak to me in that way. And I take it very, very seriously, depending on the person and depending on the individual. As I mentioned earlier, if you're a woman in leadership and if you have a situation where a man is saying that to you, you have to take that seriously. Vice versa. If it happens to a man and somebody's cursing at you, you have to take it seriously. So I kept that in mind. I did say you do not need to curse that way. Okay. And the person kind of turned themselves down just a little bit because they noticed that they were off guard. Now, the conversation went on a bit, and I had to explain to the person specifically how do you how do you deal with a situation like that? How do you deal with a situation like that? And one of the things, I just listened what they had to say. I had to tell them that this part wasn't here. And then the person went off on the deep end. And Robert, I see you have a question. I'm going to go into it just a second. He had a statement. He just went off the deep end. And I'm going to tell you exactly what he said. And this is just what the person said. Okay. This is not what I said. He said, well, you know what? And he made this threat last time, but this time he took it to the next step. He said, well, if I come here and this part or whatever is not fixed, and this was not it was an issue, yes, but it wasn't like it'd been an ongoing issue. It really wasn't. But he said, well, if this wasn't fixed, I'm going to come here with my lawyers, and I'm a member of the Republican Party. I'm a member of the Republican Party. And I've been a member since, I don't know. I don't want to tell the man's age, but he's been a member of the Republican Party, right? He said, I've been a member of the Republican Party, and I'm gonna talk to lawyers. I know people. I know people. And so then what did he do? He got his little wallet, and he took out his Trump card. No kidding. He took out his Trump card that said he was a Republican. And he was like, I have a card here with President Trump's name picture on it. And he said, you see this? I said, okay. And this is where my sarcasm came out. And this is it just caught me because that's just how I communicate. When I see somebody's being completely disrespectful, I can't help it. So I said, I know who the president of the United States is. And this was years ago when he was president. So I said, I know who the president of the United States is. And I just looked at him like, you've completely lost your mind. Are you serious right now? You show me your Trump card like I don't know who Trump is. President Trump, president of the country. This is years ago. And so my sarcasm came out. Why? Because I know myself. And for me personally, at that point, I was beyond annoyed. Normally, if I'm dealing with an angry patient, it is not my intent to put gas on fire. My intent is to calm things down. But when you're in a situation where someone is completely disrespecting and insulting you, I'm sorry, leaders, you don't have to take it, and you do not have to sit there and be like, yeah, I understand. No, sometimes you don't understand. Like that particular situation, it was just a bit excessive to me. Okay, you're a member of the Republican Party. Fantastic, great. That doesn't have anything to do with your with your dental appointment. I'm just saying. I know people. Bring out a little Trump card. I know people. I know people. Okay, well, that's great. But anyways, that's how that he ended. We had a conversation. We finished up, and I was talking to him, and he just walked away. So what did I do? I let him walk away. I didn't go chasing after this person, say, "Oh, excuse me, excuse me." No, let them go, because ultimately, if someone's going to disrespect you in that way and be really rude and insulting to you, sometimes you gotta let those people go. All right, Robert says, how can John handle his situation? So refresh my memory about John. I don't know if you put another comment in there. I didn't see it, but let me know specifically what you're referring to about John. I know you talked about There's been a couple things you've talked about, so let me know a little bit more specific just so I can remember, in terms of John specifically. But as I mentioned with this situation, you have to be able to gauge the room and see what's going on with the person. It may be a legitimate issue, which I can understand, waiting, but there's also the part of it too where you have to remember that look, things are happening with people. And sometimes you just have to know as a leader when is your win. And sometimes leaders don't know that. They will not know when their win is, and they'll just let the conversation go, go, go forever, and they'll really struggle and get really frustrated with the person or the person get more frustrated. Sometimes you have to let it go. Now, the things that I did specifically to manage my emotions under pressure is that I know my triggers. I know my triggers. And if I know that this person is saying something that I don't think is appropriate, my first initial response is to say, that's not okay. That's not okay. And I wouldn't say that unless I felt like it was highly inappropriate. But in this case, the explicatives and the F this and you're doing F and that and stuff, that's not appropriate. That's not appropriate at all by any means whatsoever. And I was able to just stare at this person. Eye contact is big. If you can master eye contact, it makes you feel in control because you are doing something that you have been trained by subscribing to my channel. You have been trained to do, and you are going to feel a lot more empowered when you know you are using a tool that we talk about on this channel that will help you to maintain eye contact when someone, if they're doing something inappropriate or being really rude to you. Another thing I did was to manage my emotions under pressure is that I just had to sigh. I mean, and for me, I just had to sigh because it got to the point where when he was talking about, as I mentioned, I'm a member of the Republican Party. I got my Trump card. It was just like, really? I mean, that's in my mind. And it was just too much for me. And so I managed my emotions because sometimes you may need to just take that very subtle breath just to calm yourself down. What do you do to calm yourself down when you are under pressure? Let me know in the comments below. But those are some of the things that I did. I knew my triggers. He didn't say anything that triggered me immediately, besides his explicatives. I didn't think that was appropriate. I maintained eye contact. I sighed when I need to. And when it became to the point where this was just complete nonsense, yes, my sarcastic humor came out. I wasn't rudely sarcastic, but if you ask me a question, if you're showing me a Trump card, literally, you all, it was literally a Trump card. But if you are showing me a Trump card and I live in the United States at this time, and you think I don't know who the president of the country is? I don't know if he was showing me the card and just brag, you got a card with Trump's picture on it. Who cares? Like, really, like in my mind, I'm thinking, who cares? Is Trump coming going to pay for your treatment? I highly doubt that. But that's just my own personal belief. It just wasn't relevant to the conversation. It just wasn't. It just wasn't relevant. And so, yes, my sarcastic humor came out a bit because I just felt like you're showing me a card of President Trump like I don't know who that is. It was at the point where I was just like, okay, I'm over it. Now this is going to the ridiculous land, and I don't like being in ridiculous land. Those are a couple things that I did. I really pay attention to what people do and listen to what they say, but you have to have your own way of managing your emotions under pressure. So, what are some things that you do to manage your emotions under pressure? Let me know in the comments below. I've shared a couple of mine. Empowering myself and eye contact is one, knowing my triggers is another one. And sometimes you may need to just take a break. You may need to take a break. You may need to step out for just a moment. You just have to make that determination at the very beginning. Is this conversation a threat or is this conversation someone just being frustrated? That's by far the most important aspect of those very high stakes, high pressure situations. Because if you don't know that, you may be in a conversation that is a threat and you may stay in that conversation longer than what you really need to. And then that's where trouble happens. I shared with you all last week, I believe, the one conversation I had well, no. I would say one of the conversations I've had that I have been threatened as a senior executive where I felt very, 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 very threatened. And I made the mistake in this situation where I did not make that record, I did not determine where this conversation was going early on in the conversation. If I would have been able to know and talk to my future self, I would say, to just make the determination when you're having a conversation with someone, even if it's a performance issue or some challenge that's going on, it doesn't matter. You may be going into a conversation and thinking, "Oh, I'm just talking about John," as Robert mentioned, or I'm just talking to Annie, I'm just talking to Angela. We're just there's a performance that you want to talk about. No, I want you to really think about those conversations differently. Every conversation you have that could potentially go under pressure, when you know there's a topic that's going to be discussed that could potentially make someone upset, become emotional, you have to determine early on, is this conversation the person frustrated, or is this conversation a legitimate threat to myself? Now, sometimes you will have situations where you may not be able to pick up on it immediately. The conversation may start off fine, it may start off okay, and then it just changes just at a snap, and you had no idea what was going to happen. Now, how do you manage yourself in those situations? You have to pay very, very close attention to the person, what they are doing, their verbal, their nonverbal gestures, how their body language is operating. You have to just really be very, very laser focused. It not only helps to make it appear, which you really are, but it helps to make it appear that you are very much actively listening to this person. But it also helps you to stay in control of the conversation and to be able to pick up on those very, very subtle cues when they happen. The more information you know, and the more you practice these skills that I share with you on this channel, as I mentioned, there's no other channels that are doing this, but the more information you know and you can start using in your day to day conversations, the more empowered you will feel to start being more comfortable in those high stakes situations where you feel like you are managing your emotions under pressure. You just have to know your triggers. That's so incredibly important. If you know your triggers, then this is something that will be able to help you manage the situations. So I want to know from you, from those watching live and watching the replay, what are some triggers that you have been dealing with that you're trying to make sure that you have a response to? If you know there's something that triggers you, then let me know in the comments below. If you're watching the live video, let me know and I'll help you determine what kind of templated response you might want to say to those situations. I have my own triggers. I have my word that is a trigger for me that I don't like. And I've shared with you all that when I hear that, I have to just calm myself down and say, okay, I'm going to control this conversation. And I believe when you know you're in those high stakes situation and the conversation may go in a different direction, in addition to recognizing, is this person just frustrated or is this potentially a legitimate threat to me? Another thing that may be helpful for you to think about also is I need to control this conversation. And it's not in a, I don't want to say that in a very egotistical, arrogant way, but if you feel like this conversation is about to go in a different direction, you have to bring it in really quickly. And that's where you have to control the conversation. That may come down to you being aware, as I've talked about many times before, of your exits, knowing who knows you're having this difficult conversation, having somebody with you so that they can be a support if you need them to, if you need to escort the person out, or if you need to have security escort the person out. There's a lot that goes into it, but knowing your triggers is really, really important, and being able to just know that you can control this conversation if you start learning some of these skills that I mentioned to you here on the channel. So let me know what other questions you all have. Do you have any specific situations, any specific scenarios that you are dealing with right now that is a challenge? Let's talk about it in the comments below. I'm here to support you any way that I can. And Kitsia, hello, how are you doing today? I actually was speaking to somebody from Greece earlier today, and he was telling me how amazing Greece was, and we were talking about Greek restaurants here. So good to see you, friend. How you doing today? Okay, Akitia says, in case of disrespectful speaker, A, you blackmail him in blackmail him the end of the conversation if he is not able to discuss in a civilized way. B, you call an exorcist. You know what, Akesia? Sometimes I'm telling you, friend, you may we I know we're laughing at it, but sometimes I think, I don't know, you may have to do option B, depending on the person. Depending on the person. Everybody is different. And you bring up some really good points. But there's some people out there that you cannot please, and I said at the very beginning of the live, there will be people out there that you cannot please these people. These people, there are people on this earth that are just meant to just not be nice and just to terrorize people. And it may sound very harsh for me to say that, but I've interacted with so many people who are just unhappy. They're really, really unhappy. And I know you all are not in that group because you're amazing, but there literally are people out there. And so I want you to be prepared for those situations when you have those people that are perhaps just the spoiled apple in the bunch, so to speak. And they give you a hard time just because they're just unhappy people. I want you to be prepared to handle those situations so that even if it happens to you, you still control the conversation. You still control the conversation. The person can walk away or they can stay. I've had many people walk away, or I've had like the incident I mentioned to you where the person just, after we finished talking, they just got up and were just walking away. Fine. I'm not gonna chase after somebody. Definitely, I'm not gonna chase after somebody, Akitsi, if I feel like they need the exorcist. I'm okay. I'm okay over here in my positive bubble. I don't need any of that. So I appreciate you bringing that up because I've interacted with a lot of people, and Akitsi, I know you have too, where you've seen people and you're just wondering, what is wrong with this person? What is going on with them? So I appreciate you bringing that up, friend, and good to see you as always. Okay. All right. So any other questions you all have? Any other situations? Any challenges you all are facing right now on your leadership journey? I appreciate you all being here and being the best part of YouTube. And I haven't been live for a couple of days. I had an emergency happen, so it kind of took me out for a little bit, but I'm back. Everything should be good. But I'm here really to support you all on your journey. I know tomorrow evening, in the morning, there's a topic that Cat 23rd had mentioned about paradoxes. I may talk about that in the morning. But tomorrow evening, specifically, because I have more time, we're going to talk about what you can do to slow down when you are speaking. How many of you struggle with speaking very fast when you're talking to people? I struggled with this when I was very early on in my public speaking journey. And if you're trying to become a thought leader or someone that is very, very influential, your speed and your pace of how you communicate is very, very important for you to learn how to master if you are elevating as a leader, which you likely are because you're subscribed to this channel. We're going to talk about that more in detail tomorrow. I'm going to give you a couple reasons as to why people tend to speak fast when they are communicating. Some of them will shock you, but some of them you may be aware of. And I'm going to give you some strategies, some insights that can actually help you to be able to slow down a bit when you speak. So when you have that conversations with individuals, you don't feel like you're having to speak as fast. It's a little bit odd, but I'm going to share with you some strategies that I've done with my clients to help them start to slow down just a little bit. All right, we have Yuri. I'm gonna say Yuri and Natsu. I'm gonna say Nexufi can. I know I said that incorrectly. Let me see that again. Let me see. Nexuki fan. I hope says hello. I am new here. Well, welcome Yuri. Hope you're doing well today. We just finished up talking about how to control your emotions under pressure, and Yuri, this channel specifically focuses in on high stakes, high pressure communication. If you are a woman in leadership, a man in leadership, or someone who is thinking about leadership, this is the best channel for you to be at on YouTube. This is the only channel on YouTube, and I say that confidently, the only channel on YouTube that talks about high stakes, high pressure communication in a live setting to the point where I'm actually giving you real strategies. There's other channels out there, but if you look on Google AI or you look on Gemini, there's really, really, really not channels out there that are doing it the way that I'm doing it here. So I hope that you gain some value here, Yuri. There's a lot of videos here that will help you if you are managing your emotions under pressure, eye contact, body language, being more confident, your tone of voice, being able to just be composed and not freeze in those high stakes situations. You will find a tremendous amount of value here on this channel, and you're welcome to subscribe if you like the content. Akesia says, yes, depend on the person, the situation. If he is really out of control, you shout him, you remind me of Donald Trump. Well, I mean, people like that. And there are people, and I'm not necessarily trying to get into a political like conversation specifically, but I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I know who the president of the country was at that time. And it was just really just insulting. Like you think I don't know, anyways. But nonetheless, you remind me of Donald Trump. I know he probably honestly, like he said, thank you for the heart emojis. If I would have told this man that, remember, he brought out his Trump card. He literally, I have never seen a Trump card. To be honest with you, I never seen one until that day. And I said, wow, there really is a Trump card. Are you serious? But I would say if I told him he reminded me of Donald Trump, he would probably be like, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'm sure, Akisa, I'm telling you, he would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm not even mad anymore. He probably would have said that more than likely. This man had a Trump card, literally, like he opened up his wallet and showed me his card. Like I guess I was supposed to say, oh my god, oh my gosh, like I was supposed to be scared. I'm not scared, but anyways, yeah, he probably would have been happy if I told him he reminded me of Donald Trump. He would have been ecstatic. He probably would have stopped being mad just instantly. He probably would have been fine. So thank you for the heart emojis. That's literally probably what would have happened. But as I mentioned, at that point when that conversation went there, I just couldn't help myself. My sarcastic humor came out. Okay, Aketia says, Doctor, a lot of the messages were sent earlier, but you did not read them. I didn't see any messages. So on my end, what messages were sent? So on my end, I don't see the messages on my chat. So now I'm a little concerned about that because all the messages I literally have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I just have 11 messages. And that's what I was wondering because Robert mentioned something. How can John handle the situation? But I don't actually see any other content or context outside of that. And I know Robert is always good at giving some really good insights. But I wonder what happened to my chat today. That's a little bit odd to me. So if you all had any questions specifically or any additional context, please let me know. I did not see those. And for those of you that are new to me or have been on my channel for a long time, I do read the comments and I do respond to them as long as they're appropriate. So I don't know what happened there. But thank you for the heart emojis and the smiley faces. Yeah, well, I don't know what happened to the messages. I have to see what's going on there. And it could be an issue that I don't know. I don't know because I didn't see any messages and I hate that I missed them. Okay, Yuri said, OMG, wait, I have something to ask. What if I think my friends don't like me? I think I have fake friends. Sometimes they make me CR. I'm assuming you're going to say cry. Okay, we can talk about that. Akesia says, haha. And Dad Kuma, hello, welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing well today. Dad Kuma says, fanboy cult card. I, I would probably I understand what you're saying and it just yeah, it was a little odd there, Kuma. I'm being honest with you. It was just I've never personally, and Yuri, I'm gonna answer your question, but I personally have never and interacted with a lot of people on the political side, but I've never interacted with someone that is just like basically saying, I have a card here and you better not mess up because I got this card. It literally was like that. So Dekuma, I think you're probably about right on that. Okay, so Yuri, if you have a situation where you think that you have fake friends, you think you have fake friends, this is something I tell my daughter and I. We were just having a conversation about this yesterday because she felt like she asked some things of some friends and they are kind of pretending to be fake. One of the things I would tell you, Yuri, is that if you notice, and this is more of like in high stakes situations, and I consider this, a bit more challenging in your case if you're dealing with friends, you have to make that discernment relatively quickly. Is this person real or is this person fake? Yuri, what I'm telling you is not only related to your friends, okay? This is related for the rest of your life. You have to pick this up really quickly because believe it or not, I don't know, in terms of where you are, in terms of college or etc. But as you age and get older, this is something that actually is very important for you to decipher really quickly. If you feel like someone's being fake and they're making you cry, Yuri, I'm going to tell you right now, they are not your friend. They are not your friend. And if you have people like that, you have to start distancing yourself from those friends. So, for example, when I talked to my daughter, and we had a conversation about this just yesterday, Yuri, she mentioned to me about some stuff with some friends. She felt like they betrayed her and all these things where she felt like they're fake and all this stuff too. I said, "Well, what have I taught you to do?" And I said, "You have to start distancing yourself. If you have people that are being rude, disrespectful, making you cry, then you absolutely don't need to interact with those people. They're fake." And so if you think they don't like you and you think they're being fake and they're making you cry, they're not your friends anyways. I would highly recommend for you to find new friends or become very, 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 very confident in yourself so you don't have to worry about people that say silly things. That's something I teach my clients to do to develop that very much unshakable confidence where it doesn't matter if someone's saying mean things about you or thinking ill of you. You will be so confident where it goes off your shoulder. You're just like, whatever, I don't even care. That's how I am. And I teach my clients to do that too. All right. So Akesia says, I think technical problem or Trump's retaliations. Right. I think it's a technical problem too, because that's the first time on the lives, if there's messages sent that I haven't seen them. So I know Robert sent a message, just how can John handle the situation? But I didn't see anything. And even when I look through my chats now, I don't see any other context outside of that. And I mentioned that because I know he's good for it. But it could be some technical issue with YouTube or retaliation. Who knows? Yuri says, like, there's a girl in my class named Aaliyah. She makes me cry. She says, I'm sorry. I forgive her. And she made me sad and mad. So now I get what you're saying. And I have a friend named Cecilia. She is the nicest. Okay, so Yuri, in that case, then be friends with Cecilia. Be friends with Cecilia, and enjoy your friendship. I would definitely say if anybody's making you sad and mad, as an adult, we still struggle with this. As older adults, I'm an older adult, but we still struggle with this. If someone's making you sad, mad, all at the same time and making you cry, you have to really rethink this conversation, this relationship you have with this person because it's probably not healthy. And do you really want to live your life like that? No. So if you start learning these strategies early on, as you develop into a person, you will start to see that, okay, I see that Mary is fake, but Cecilia is great. And just gravitate towards Cecilia, spend time with them. But the key is just to be very, 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 very observant. Pay attention to what people say and what they do not say. That's where you pay attention to their verbal and their nonverbal gestures. You start to pick up on what people are thinking, even though they're not telling you. That, Yuri, is how you start learning how to read people. Okay, so Yuri says, me and Cecilia have been friends since kindergarten. Well, that's great. And she hasn't made me mad or sad once. Now that sounds like a good friend. So I would definitely spend time with that friend and just distance yourself from Aaliyah. When I mean distance yourself, this is something you just maybe not want to interact with Aaliyah as much. Saki Mari, hello, welcome back, friend. How you doing today? What are the situations are you all dealing with today? What are some challenges that you're dealing with? Any situations? Let me know in the comments below. Robert, if you are still here, let me know what situation happened specifically. I don't know what happened to the messages today. But I just see how can John handle this situation, his situation. So let me know, Robert. I'm here for you. But and thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. Thank you, Akesia, for letting me know that I missed that the messages didn't come through because I literally did not see them at all. I usually stay on top of the messages quite a bit. Yuri said, it's just I don't go to her school and she misses me in the school. I go to school with Aaliyah. Oh, I see. Well, hopefully, I don't know your age and etc., but maybe talk to your caretakers, your guardians, your parents about spending time with Cecilia, and just try to maybe distance yourself from Aaliyah. Akesia says, in case of disrespectful speaker, let's copy Trump's way. Let's negotiate, and by the time he starts discussing this way, you start like Trump offending him harder. Haha. I know, right? Yeah, I know. I understand. That's yeah, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. That's for sure. It's just a lot. And I've mentioned this before, and I say this in all sincerity, especially when it comes to high stakes situations and communicating. It's important not only as leaders in your organizations and your businesses, but also leaders of the world. The whole situation going on right now with the communication we've received about the war in Iran and all this stuff, it is this legitimately. And as soon as I get things set up in my studio for my YouTube channel, this is a master class of how to not communicate well in a high stakes situation where you're saying two totally different things. We started this because of this, we started this because of that, and it's not the same. This is how you do not want to communicate with your teams at all. So I know it's a lot to watch on TV now and learn from, but just observe what people are doing now and just think about yourself as leaders and just determine that I would not want to talk to my teams like that, or I would not want to communicate mixed information like that to my teams. It'll help you to become a amazing and better leader. Yuri says, luckily I have her number, but Aaliyah tells me to call her because I have hers too. And I always want to call her, but I don't want to be mean. Well, maybe you're busy doing your homework. I mean, there's other things that you can do besides calling this person. You can be busy, you're doing your homework. I actually, and it's interesting you mentioned that because I mentioned this. I can't remember who asked me this question specifically, but if you're trying to detract yourself from someone and get out of a conversation, or maybe you just don't want to interact with this person, give a reason as to why. You are more focused on your studies, you have to work on this subject, you got to do a lot of things that will prevent you from having to call somebody because you're more focused on your academics or studying. Now, whether you actually are doing that, I hope that you're doing that, especially if you're in school, but whether you're doing that or etc doesn't matter. Ultimately, you have to distance yourself, and I understand you don't want to be mean, but if this person is making you feel unhealthy and crying and sad and mad, it's just you're it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. This is a lesson you have to learn pretty quickly, especially as you start to kind of navigate through different types of conversations. Yuri says, even though I have been bullied my whole life except 1 through 4. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. And of course, you need to talk to your guardians, your parents about that, and any school counselors where you feel safe to have those conversations. But that is something that you definitely have to have a, I would say, integrated approach. It's not just you. You definitely have to let people know what's going on, because if your teachers and your professors, depending on where you are, if they don't know what's going on, then they can't make changes. Okay? If they can't make changes, then we they can't do anything. So if they don't know, you have to make sure that they know what's going on, and definitely let your guardians, your caretakers, or your parents know what's going on so they can have conversations with your professors or teachers to make sure that you're not experiencing bullying, because bullying is not okay. All right, Dad Kuma says for sure it's a 101 on how not to go morally bankrupt to reflect on how Trump handles his business. That Kuma, that's a good point. And it really is. And I know a lot of people come at it from this point of, you either like the president or you don't like the president. But I just take it as there's so much that you can learn from many situations, but this situation specifically, this is truly a masterclass. I mean, this is, if you've ever thought, well, what mistakes can I avoid making as a leader? watch the news. I mean, every day you'll see something that just doesn't make sense. And all these things, as frustrating as it may seem, they are still really great lessons for those members of my channel because I know you all value advanced level communication in those high stakes, high pressure situation. This is a high stake, high pressure situation. And to see it in real time, how someone communicates and what they're doing well or what they're doing not well at is a great way for you to learn. But Dead Kuma, I agree with you 100%. This is definitely a 101 for sure. And when I get my studio set up, I will definitely do some reaction videos. Not necessarily reactions like most people will say, "Oh, I didn't like that. I didn't like what they said." I'm not going about it being biased in that way. I'm coming when I do those type of videos as being objective to say, "See how they did this? They did this very well. Do you see how they communicate this way? This body gesture with what they're saying, they communicated this horribly." I want to give you that very objective view of how the way you communicate, how you communicate, what you say, when you say it, your tone of voice, if it's up, if it's down, your body gestures, if you're doing a gesture specifically to enhance a point when you're speaking to your audience. All of those things I want to put together in my reaction videos. I'm just in the middle of trying to set up my studio here to do all of that. I'm going to do it because I don't know how long this is going to be going on. I will have time to do it based on where things are right now. But I'm working on my studio right now. So good point, Dekuma. I hope you subscribe to the channel, friend, because I would love to see you back here again. Akesia, let's see. Okay, hold on. Yuri says, I have, but they can't do anything. My parents, teachers, what they do is just lecture. Okay. Maybe talk to some of your counselors and see what their thoughts are about that. Akesia says, Doctor, one irrelevant question. How can Iranians trust Trump for further negotiations? Impossible. Akesia, yeah, I know you were a part of that conversation we had a while back too. I don't know. I just this situation is very, very, very complex. And I think one of the things I mean, I guess there's different lines of thought. Some people, say there's nuclear weapons or they were working on nuclear weapons and etc. Okay, I've heard all that. Maybe some of that's true, possibly so. More than likely it might be, but I mean, there's a lot of countries with nuclear weapons. But I would say, Akesia, one of the things, and this actually is a good point. I'm actually glad you always bring up some really great points, Akesia. Let me say this. All I know is that from what I've heard on the news, now hopefully the news is correct, maybe it might be wrong, but it seems like they were in the middle of negotiations with Iran and with the US, and then the bombs went off, right? And so you may bring up a good point. How can the Iranians trust Trump for further negotiations? It's a good question. And one of the things I would say as leaders we can actually gain from this is if you are in negotiations with contracts with clients or anything like that and you're trying to make sure we are having a good discussion, we're trying to come with a compromise and etc., you can't just go and do the opposite because that's the fastest way you can break trust in any kind of relationship, especially if you're building it as a business owner or as a person working in an organization, you're building partnerships. It's impossible for you to be able to recover from that. It really is. And Keisha, you mentioned a good question. That's something we'll have to wait to see. But I would say, just as leaders, just keep. I'm telling you, this is a master class. I don't know if you're going to see something like this happen in the world in our age. I don't know. Hope not. But this is something that is definitely for the history books. I mean, in terms of just the situation as it is, but definitely some of the communication challenges that came up. If you're negotiating with someone and you're dropping bombs on them, I mean, it may be a little challenging to move forward negotiations, but we'll see what happens. Akesia said, I mean, Yuri says we don't have a counselor. I Well, I would just maybe bring it up to your guardians or parents again and talk to them about it and just let them know that these are the things you're experiencing or have been experiencing. What support do they feel like they could offer? If you feel like you're getting just a lecture, maybe just tell them this is what you have going on, and maybe there's some things that they could help you to try and navigate. Dekuma says, I am smiley face. Well, welcome, friend. Glad that you are subscribing to the channel. I appreciate you being here. We had a convo before about reorganization in my company, its team, which went very well, by the way. Oh, well, fantastic. Well, I'm glad that went well for you. And I am glad to see you here, Dekuma. Welcome, welcome. And Yuri says, I think. Okay, well, Yuri, just check to see if you have a counselor. I can't see that you would not have one. I don't know any academic situations that would not have one, but find out, maybe have a conversation and see. Dekuma says, glad you are still doing this. That's also why I stay to listen to you now. It's 2 a.m. in my country. Ha ha. What country are you from again, Dekuma? And thank you for staying. I'm gonna wrap up here in a little bit. That's early. Akitsia, and I don't know what time is it in Greece, Akitsia. I don't know what time it is in Greece now. I'm thinking you're probably where Greece is located. I'm assuming you're many hours ahead of us here on the Eastern US. Okay, so Dekuma is from the Netherlands. Wow, awesome. Welcome, welcome. So glad to hear that. Very, very nice. How is it over there? I don't know much about the Netherlands besides some pretty cool things. So Akesia says, seriously, now one more way to manage offensive speaker. Okay, Akesia, what do you have? Let's see. You let him take all his anger out and focus in his examples and not on the way they were presented. Akesia, that's actually a really, really great insight that you shared because sometimes you need to just do that. Let the person just speak, say what they have to speak, as long as it's appropriate and not being disrespectful. That's when you have to just cut it off and say, hold on just a second, just like I did to the gentleman. But that's a really good point. Sometimes you just have to let people speak, say what they have to say, and then focus on their points. This is that scenario when the person is just frustrated, not when you feel threatened. So determining that pretty quickly, or as the conversation goes on, being able to pick up fast that, okay, this person is just frustrated, or maybe this person is going to be a threat to me. So there's something to keep in mind. All right, awesome. Well, I appreciate you all so much for being here. Akitsia, Robert, Dekuma, Yuri, and had a couple other people that have joined previously. Saki Mari has been here before. And Annie, I think, has been here before. So I appreciate you all being here. I know it's 2 a.m. in the Netherlands, so I definitely don't want to keep you all up. And Akitsia, I'm assuming it's early morning your time too, probably. I would think so. It's 9 o'clock here, possibly. But I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about some paradoxes because Kat wanted me to talk about that, Cat 23rd. And we're definitely going to dive into being able to slow down when you're speaking. If you're not able to watch the video live, no problem. You're always welcome to watch the replays. I will have those available for those of you who are watching, especially if you're from the Netherlands and from Greece. I know it's probably early morning your time. You're always welcome to watch the replays, but I appreciate you all so much for spending time with me live today. And I appreciate you for being here. Dekuma says, it's nice to live here. We got decent worker rights and protection, a social safety net, but also enough resources and support from out of the government to support business growth. Wow, that's great. That's fantastic. That's really good. They have subsidies and healthcare. Well, fantastic. That is amazing. That is good to know. Very, very good to know. At some point in time, this has been on my mind to do. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I don't know when I'm gonna do it, but I want to have at least a time where we're able to connect via Zoom at some point in time because I see you all here on live, and hopefully at some point YouTube will maybe migrate to that. But it'd be great to connect with y'all via Zoom and just say hello and just have a chat. So that's something I'm planning to do. I don't know when I'm gonna do it just yet, but it's something I'm seriously considering to possibly do, and maybe do it at different times of the day just to balance out those of you that live in other parts of the world because I know sometimes it might be early or maybe very, very late. So I really want to try to get to interact with everyone. So I appreciate you all being here. Now, I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day. Good to see you all back again. And if you have any topics, any situations and scenarios that have happened, let me know in the comments below. If you're watching live, watching replay, let's talk about it. I'm here to support you any way that I can. If I see your comment and it requires a bit more depth, I will do a video just for you and give you a shout out in the video. If not, I will respond to your comment. Dick Kuma says, "Sign me up." Absolutely, absolutely. I'll take a screenshot really quick so I can make sure I have your name on there. What I most likely will do is put it in the form of a it'll probably be a post, and it will be something that I will it will not be something where I just say, "Oh, by the way, we're gonna have a Zoom meeting tomorrow." It would be a huge rollout. So, for instance, you would know about it at least a good month in advance. Like, it would be a month in advance, and I'll probably plan to do it on different times and, different times here to kinda capture some of you where you are right now. So let me see, hold on, let me take a screenshot because in the Netherlands, you said it is 2 o'clock in the morning there. Akesia says it's 3:55 in the morning. Wow, that's early. Well, thank you for being here, Akesia. I appreciate that. And I do go live in the morning, our time here, which will be probably later in the afternoon for you all, but you might be probably working at that time specifically. Because I go live in the mornings around about 8 or so in the morning. I may be going a little bit earlier here pretty soon because my schedule is going to change a little bit. Akesia said, "Doctor, just a minute." Okay. You probably have something you want to add, so I will let you add that. But nonetheless, while I'm waiting for Akesia to respond really quickly, yes, definitely gonna plan for some type of event. It will be a big event. I will probably plan on doing that at least a month notice. I think I can kind of capture if I want to do, I may have to do more than a month. It just depends. I just want to get at least a lot of people to join on different timelines. It's something I'll probably do over multiple days. And if you can't join, that's fine. I'll record it online and I'll have it a link hopefully so that you all can access it just for my members of YouTube. I think I'm gonna make it exclusive there. I do have a community page now. You're welcome to make comments on that page. I did open that up. And as the channel grows, because we're pretty close to 1,000 subscribers right now, we're at 838, I believe. As the channel continues to grow, then there's more features that will come up that we're able to utilize as a channel. So if you have colleagues or friends or loved ones that you know want to elevate how they're communicating and when they manage those very challenging situations, then feel free to absolutely let them know about this channel so we can all grow together. Okay, Ketia says, I strongly believe that the case of the negotiation mentioned earlier is an example of survivorship, I think you mentioned. Yeah, it's definitely a challenging situation. It really is. And I mean, regardless of there's some people that obviously, are okay with having negotiations like that. But typically you usually don't do that. But I don't know all, of course, I'm not in that realm specifically to know what they're doing in terms of negotiation or etc. It's just outwardly it just doesn't this doesn't look right and looks like a little bit, yeah, looks a little odd. Akeisha says survivorship concept. Exactly, exactly. I appreciate you bringing that up, Akeisha. Really good insights as always. All right, well, I will see you all tomorrow morning and stay tuned for that event. I don't know when I'm going to do it. I have to do a bit of planning for that, and I'm very, very good at organizing events. So I want to make sure I have a lot of things set up so that it's something that we can do and have a really great time with. But more than likely, it will probably be via Zoom. So I will keep y'all posted on it. And as I mentioned, it will be a pretty large rollout. It will not be something I just say, hey, by the way, we're going to do a Zoom call tomorrow. It will be something that you will know a long time in advance. So you can join or watch the replay. Dekuma says maybe you could put a link somewhere to sign up on your profile so you can send a reminder or if anything changes in your planning. Sounds very nice to share and spar our experiences. Dekuma, I'm actually going to take a screenshot of that. I took a screenshot of your times, yours and Akitsia, so I have an idea as to what time it is in the morning with you all. But that's a really good insight to sign up. And I would say let me see what I'm going to do. I need to determine if I want to use Zoom or if I want to use another platform. We'll see. I know Zoom, you can have a lot of participants on it. And so I can set it up to where we can actually have a call and where people can actually sign up for it. There may be some other platforms that might be better to use. It just depends. I'm about to change over to a different CRM, and I have to see if maybe they can host something like that. But that would be great. And so I would say it'll probably be, I think for the heart emojis, it would definitely be a longer type of meeting just to give people time to log in and join and say hello and then catch me on another day. So that may be something I like that idea, Dekuma. I think it's a very good idea. And so when I start the planning process for that, I will definitely let you know what specifically we'll do and how everybody can sign up. But I think the sign up, I think that's a great idea, Dekuma. Thank you so much. So Keith just says, check the survivorship concept. Well, people try to do so if there's anything else you want to add about it, let me know. But there's a lot of things that come up with that. And I mean, this is a like you mentioned, this is definitely an example of it of people trying to just do whatever they can to stay ahead, I would say. That's what it sounds like to me. Well, I appreciate you all so much. I will see you all either tomorrow or next Tuesday. I'm back on schedule. There's no more things that are happening on my end that prevents me from being live. So I appreciate you all being here. Dad Kuma says, great. I'll keep myself updated. Have a nice evening. Yes, give me some time. It'll be something I plan out. I would say it'll probably be later this year. I would like to do one this year for sure, but I'll definitely do some posting about it. And I'll probably do a bit more. I'll do posts on the communities page, and then I'll also probably do more videos. So I will it will be a pretty long build up for that because that's a with us having this many subscribers so far, that's a lot of people. And so I want to give everybody time to join because I want to see everybody and interact with everybody. I appreciate you all being here and being a part of the community. You all add so much value and the conversation you come up with, the situations you come up with, the great insights that you come up with are priceless and they really do help the community because many people watch live, but a lot of people watch the replay. So I appreciate you all so much. I hope you all have a great evening and I will see you in the next video.